Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the World Affairs Council of Connecticut today. We are thrilled to be joined by Ambassador Huang Ping, Consul General of the People's Republic of China in New York, to discuss global trade, the COVID-19 pandemic, and a vision for our post-pandemic global economy. Ambassador Huang, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an honor to host you.
Thank you. It's my great honor to join this diplomat online activities by the World Affairs Council of Connecticut and discuss with you this global impact of pandemic and policy options. Before the pandemic, I visited Hartford, New Haven, Stanford, and especially the Mark Twain House and the museums. I was greatly impressed, especially by the Mark Twain and the museum. I actually bought some very nice souvenir with me, a mug with his quotes, lots of quotes there. And Mark Twain is very famous in China. His works, especially Tom Sawyer, the traveling Tom Sawyer, all those, everybody knows about that. And Connecticut is a kind of place no stranger to China. Lots of Chinese people come as a student, as a businessman, as travelers to there. Yale University, especially, is a top academic palace in the mind of Chinese students. We get the first Chinese students studying American university is in Yale. And Connecticut is a hometown of a very famous American ambassador. He served in China for the longest time as ambassador in China and made very positive contributions to the development of this very important relationship. Mm-hmm. And as you know, we were all struck by this pandemic. And China was hit very seriously at the beginning. We were the first one hit by this pandemic. And during that period of time, we were helped and supported by American people, companies, and many others. In return, when we are gradually coming out of this pandemic and America is in deep trouble, we are also doing whatever we can to return this goodwill and the friendship to American people. And Connecticut has many 6 pairs of sister states and the cities in China, and the Shandong province is one of them. Shandong province donated some N95 masks and surgical masks to Connecticut. And a Chinese company, one of them is a branch in New York from China Construction Bank. They donated a lot of, like 500,000 N95 masks and 100,000 of protective clothing to Connecticut. And my consulate also helped Connecticut in its procurement of all those PPEs and everything in China. And we have been working very closely together. My consulate and the Connecticut, I had a telephone conversation with the governor, and we kept very close contact in helping people to get through this darkness moment. I think we are still not out yet. We still need to strengthen this cooperation and double down on these efforts to fight together. So today I'm very happy to be with you, and probably I can share some of my understanding and some of my opinion with everyone here in terms of how to fight this pandemic and and the impact of the pandemic on China's economy and everyday life of the people there.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. We're so glad to have you with us too. With that, let's get started. To discuss global trade, the COVID-19 pandemic, and a vision for our post-pandemic global economy. Ambassador Huang Ping is currently the Consul General of the People's Republic of China in New York, and prior positions include serving as Ambassador of China to Zimbabwe, Director General of the Department of Consular Affairs of the Chinese Foreign Ministry, and Consul General at the Consulate General of the People's Republic of China in Chicago, amongst many other distinguished service roles. And now for the discussion today, I'm pleased to turn it over to Megan Torrey, CEO of the World Affairs Council. Megan.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, everyone. Ambassador, it is so wonderful to see you again. As we discussed earlier, I was lucky enough to be one of your guests when you hosted a delegation from Connecticut last fall, and I can't thank you enough for being such a wonderful and gracious host.
It's my great pleasure to have you there.
We all know that, as we sit here today, the relationship between the U.S. and China is a bit tense. But we also know that the relationship is critical. It's critical not only for the two countries, but it's critical for the world, for the global economy. And so in true spirit of the World Affairs Council is, engaging in citizen diplomacy and creating connections and dialogue. We are so honored to have you with us. So let's start. There's a lot to talk about. So we're looking around the world, and we know that the pandemic has had a high human cost. But in addition, we know that it has impacted the stability of economies around the world. Can you talk to us a little bit how the pandemic has impacted individual businesses and the economy in China?
The pandemic has a very huge impact on China's economy operation this year. As you have noticed, we had to shut down a city with 50 million people when Wuhan was hit hard at that time to prevent the spreading of this pandemic. So the first quarter of China's economy was very bad. Like the GDP fell by 6.8% in the first quarter. And that was the first decline since the release of the quarterly GDP data in 1992. However, right now, China's GDP in the second quarter turned from the negative to the positive. Everybody's talking about this now. And with a year-on-year increase of 3.2%, that was an amazing increase. On the whole, the economy gradually overcome the bad impact of the pandemic in the first half of this year, showing a steady recovery trend. And I think we could score very high marks by the end of this year in terms of recovery among all the major economies. And we might be the only major economy that could have a positive growth in the whole world. And right now, the China's economy presents some characteristics. First is the circle of supply and demand is improving. The demand side rebounded significantly. And the second is the driving force behind the growth has changed already. The pandemic has accelerated the development of industries such as digital economy, smart manufacturing, life, and health. It nurtured lots of new industries and new business format, and has spawned rapid expansion of new enterprises like the online education, we call that the online office, and the remote medical consultation. This has become very popular because you need to see the doctor. You can't just go. You're afraid of the hospital. You can go just online, to get the services from the doctor. That is very good. And the third one characteristic is the market confidence is coming back. It's recovering. We have seen the PMI and the non-manufacturing business activity index remaining on the threshold for the 4 consecutive months. This has fully showed that the market is confident and optimistic about China's economy, and the stabilization and the rebound could be supported by the micro foundation. The business are running very good. But right now, we still have lots of challenges, of course, like the virus is still spreading everywhere, and the environment for international trade and the economy is now more complex and more sophisticated. That has also brought this huge external risks for China's economy. Domestically speaking, some industries in China have not fully resumed the normal operation, and many enterprises still face difficulties in production and operation. Employment pressure is still very prominent. All this need to be addressed in the future. So we are ready to work with all parties around the world to coordinate this economic policy, so we can have a better cooperation and working together to deal with this. That's the situation of China's economy, basically speaking, in China. Now we are in a much better shape.
Fantastic. So as we sit here in Connecticut and look across the country, we know that various states are in various phases of reopening. When you look at everyday life in China and how business leaders are moving forward in China, what does that recovery and reopening process look like? And are there lessons that can be taken away from China that might be able to serve as models?
Yes, now life in China is becoming very different now. You know, my son is in China, in Beijing, and he stayed at home for 3 months without being able to get out. Now he's back to work already, taking public transportation, bus, subway, and all those things. I can see that with the further consolidation of the pandemic prevention and control in China, economic and social operations are gradually becoming normal, approaching of being normal. The resumption of work, production, business, and school are gradually, back to normal level. And you could see the scenic spots, shopping malls, restaurants, hotels, and even theaters recently, a couple of days ago. Theaters and the cinemas are opening in an orderly manner. I often see, friends and relatives in China posting their photos of traveling, dining out, shopping in the mall, and all those things with envy. I wish I could do the same thing. But of course, the pandemic sometimes resumes, and sporadically they're coming back. We got a few cases in Beijing a couple of weeks ago. We get that under control, and all of a sudden some cases just came out, in the western part of China, now in the eastern coast area. So we're still very cautious. When you reopen this, you have to stay very cautious and vigilant. That's one thing. The everyday life in China has, is approaching to the normal. But in the meantime, there are lessons I think we can share in terms of how we get out of this. I think the most important thing, first of all, is you need to put the people's life as a priority. To save life is the most important thing. Saying that, you have to coordinate this pandemic prevention and control with this development, social development, and economic development. In China, we put the people's life as a priority. So to save life with whatever the cost. So we closed Wuhan, we closed many other cities. You know, the big ones was 50 million people for a period of time to make sure that we have a better control of this. And now we got a very good control of this pandemic. We started to resume. You're not supposed to resume this work and you know, production and all those things without being able to make this pandemic under control. That's the first slide I want to share with you. And the second, I think the pandemic is a kind of things in which people's life are different. Everything is different. You are not supposed to do everything. So you have to identify those priorities. So what are the things you need to guarantee to maintain this world, to maintain the society, keep moving? So we identified the 6 things we need to do. We call that 6 priorities and stabilities in 6 areas. To take some example, like the stability in employment, in financial operations, like the foreign trade, the foreign investment, the domestic environment, and expectations, especially the job and the basic living needs of the people. These are the very, very important things. Of course, the operation of the market entities, food and energy security, stable industrial and supply chains, and the normal functioning of their primary level governments. I mean, the local government, they are the things, they are the organs so close to the people. So you identify all those things you need to maintain its stability, so you can keep the society going, moving, without being disrupted so severely. And the third thing is you need to strengthen the policy hedging, which means you need to have the proper policy to guarantee you can maintain this stabilities. So in China, we have some stimulus policies during that period of time. For example, we have allowed the deficit, we call it the fiscal deficit, by 1 trillion yuan. We issued a special bond for the anti-pandemic special treasury bond for 1 trillion yuan. And we also cut the taxes. We also reduced the fees for more than 1 trillion yuan. So with all this money, we established a kind of mechanism to make sure this money will go to the local government, go to the business, go to the people who are in need. So policies and the mechanism to guarantee those money will be well spent are so important. I think we have made the right choice, and we achieved this goal. And that's very good to make sure that foreign investment, foreign companies can operate in China now. We recently opened a green channel in the consulate for these CEOs and those people who need to go back from abroad to keep their business operating in China. So if business from Connecticut operating in China need help, this consulate will be more than happy to facilitate. Just give us contact.
So we know that there is a lot of trade that goes back and forth between China and Connecticut. And so that's what, maybe let's talk about trade for a minute. How has the pandemic impacted China's sort of global partnerships? And are there specific ways that the pandemic has further impacted US-China trade?
For sure, the pandemic impacted China's global trading greatly. Since the beginning of this year, affected by the pandemic and the other factors. China's foreign trade has faced unprecedented, I should say, severe challenges. Total import and export volume in the first half of the year has fallen by 3.2%. We tried many ways trying to stabilize this foreign trade. Some of them are working, but you know, this is a trend. I mean, when the pandemic is still striking the world economy is in a serious recession, and the international demand has been shrinking sharply, and the trade barriers have increased significantly. So and China's economy has been deeply integrated with the world economy. So when the environment changes, China will be hit very hard. So going forward, we hope we can work with this, all the partners around the globe, you know, all the countries together to deal with this pandemic. Without the demand, without a favorable international environment, China just cannot trade with anybody.
So when we're looking, you know, at China and the U.S. in ways to improve the trade relations, we know, as you know, the obvious that there are tensions in the relationship. We've even heard the term decoupling sort of being used to describe the trade tensions between China and the U.S. and the potential for economic separation. Can you address this sort of idea of decoupling? You know, do you think this may occur? If so, in what industries? You know, is it technology? Is it manufacturing? And where can we go from here?
Yeah, as I said, China's foreign trade has been affected severely, unprecedentedly by this pandemic, and China-U.S. trade also has been affected quite severely. But good news is the trading between China and U.S. performed better than we did with the other parts of the world. And you know, we have a trade volume like $234 billion, although it's a decline by 6.6%, but it's better and than the figure with other partners. And you know, we are still implementing the phase 1 deal with America. And you talk about this decoupling. I think it's a kind of against this trade of the history, and I don't think it's possible. In all these years since we established the relationship, China and the U.S., we have been doing everything to strengthen this cooperation, and we have built up a very big pie to benefit the people, not only for our two countries, but for everybody. To my memory, we did not have a lot of trade. We started from almost scratch 40 years ago, but until last year, we got the trade volume up to more than 630 something billion US. We have this a direct investment, a mutual investment, more than 200 billions, and we have a kind of people-to-people exchange more than 5 million, and we have those students, more than 400,000 from China starting here. So that's actually a very, very big pie. And mutually, I think this cooperation is mutually beneficial. So it's not right to see that the policy of engaging China is wrong, and the US has been ripped off in the past 40 years. China is the only one beneficiary from this relationship. It's not the fact, and it's not true. And from all those things, the figures I just quoted, and you can see this mutually beneficial. So to continue with this, cooperation will benefit us. And for the world, in this globalization world, both China and the US have participated very deeply and in this. So it's not an easy thing, and it's not possible to decouple each other. But this is not a good trend. We should not allow people, some people, I don't know why they got this idea in their mind, but it's not a good idea to decouple this. It's not possible. I can cite a lot of things to see, like the semiconductor industry and many other things, if we have time to do that.
So unfortunately, we are almost running out of time, and there's so much to talk to you about. I think we have a record number of questions. I know we have a lot of academics in the audience who are very concerned about the future of academic exchange with China. But if we're looking, towards the future, I want to sort of know what your best case scenario is. If we're looking at China and the United States in particular, how can everyone work together to exhibit global leadership in order to contribute to a more secure and peaceful world?
Yes, I think if we could draw some lesson from this pandemic, I think we can say that cooperation, the pandemic is a kind of a global challenge. Nobody can just be immune from this. This virus is attacking everybody. So actually every country is living in a small village, but we have to work together. As the largest economy and the second largest economy in the world, we showed this responsibility to not only working together to help the people of our two countries, but everybody in this world. So the leadership from China, from the cooperation of China and the US are so important. So we have no other way to strengthen, but to strengthen this good cooperation and the relationship. This is very, very important. I think this is the only way we can work out of this.
So, Ambassador, unfortunately, we are out of time. I wholeheartedly invite you back for another discussion. I know that there are so many in the audience who have so many questions for you, and that we all know how important and critical the relationship is. And we thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me here. I wish we could have more time to discuss this. Yes.
We'll have you back, I promise.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, and thank you everyone who joined. I know we want more time, just as Megan said, to get to all of your great questions. So hopefully we can do this again in the future. And in the meantime, I wanted to invite everyone, if you would like to revisit this conversation, if there's anything you missed or if you want to share with your friends, please head to our YouTube channel, which is at World Affairs Council of Connecticut on YouTube, where this discussion and our future and past ones are posted. If you subscribe and like, and get notifications, and you can make sure that you're keeping up with all these great discussions. And most of all, I want to say thank you again for joining us, everyone. And thank you so much, Ambassador Huang, for joining us today. It was an honor.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Bye.